In the 2nd century, it seems early Christians and the church were already being confronted with issues over the different birth narratives described in Matthew and Luke's gospel. And perhaps rightfully so, seeing as though the incarnation of God through Mary is one of the foundations of the faith, one of the great mysteries. The Protoevangelium of James, otherwise known as the Gospel of James, was an apologetic gospel designed to smooth over the discrepancies between Matthew and Luke's birth narratives. It was not included in the Bible canon in the late 4th century, so it's an apocrypha book. But it's been read and enjoyed by Christians for centuries. Originally written in Hebrew, the Gospel of James combines both Matthew and Luke's birth narratives to make one cohesive story. The story is centered around Mary, her parents, her birth, and her upbringing. So I want to cover some of the key points found in that gospel. It's a short gospel, and I'm sure this will be a short video, but let's just discuss some of the points. First, was it written by James the Apostle, the Bishop of Jerusalem? I think most people agree that it could not be written by him, seeing as though it doesn't show up until the 2nd century. And perhaps that's why it was not included in the canon of the Bible, because it wasn't apostolic in origin. Anyway, according to the author of this writing, Mary's parents were Joachim and Anna. Both parents were wealthy, but childless. They're likened to Abraham and Sarah. After praying for a whole chapter, Anna is granted a child from God who will be Mary. When Anna receives this blessing, interestingly, she says that God magnifies her soul. Now, many of you will notice that in Luke's gospel, Mary says that her soul magnifies the Lord. After her birth, Mary is presented in the temple, where the high priest calls her blessed, and that the children of Israel will know her name. At age 3, she is blessed again in the temple and placed on the 3rd step of the altar, where it is said she danced. And let me add that the high priest at this time is Zacharias from Luke's chapter 1, John the Baptist's father. Mary is raised in the temple until she hits puberty. At that point, Zacharias has to find her not really a husband, but more or less a ward or a caretaker. She is seen as a holy child of the temple and needs to live with a guardian. And this is where Joseph comes in. And the controversy surrounding this part is that Joseph, according to this writing, is an old widower who already has children. But he is chosen to be this ward of the temple child. Zacharias wants to reconstruct the veil over the Holy of Holies, and he convenes 7 virgins. One of them is the Virgin Mary. Mary is given the color purple as her assignment to weave into the veil. At this point, this is when the angel Gabriel comes to visit Mary at home while she's constructing this new veil. And this is where Luke's gospel takes off, the conversation between Mary and the angel, and then she goes to live with Elizabeth for 3 months. Later, when she's 6 months pregnant, Joseph returns from building houses somewhere else and finds that Mary is 6 months pregnant, and this is where you get the turmoil that Joseph goes through in Matthew's gospel about what should he do with this temple child who is now pregnant. They're going to blame him, and that's where Matthew comes in at this point. Joseph is ultimately found to be not guilty of getting this temple child pregnant. The couple goes to Bethlehem for tax reasons, and this is where the wise men find Mary, who's not in a manger, but she's in a cave in Bethlehem. King Herod already saw the wise men and orders the children under 2 years of age in Bethlehem to be slaughtered. Jesus is swaddled and placed into a manger because there was no inn, or there was no room at the inn. But interestingly enough, Herod goes after John the Baptist as well. Herod can't get Elizabeth nor Mary and Joseph, but he does kill Zacharias in this writing. The killing of Zacharias puts Simeon in as high priest of the temple at this point, and this is where the gospel ends. And what can I say about the Gospel of James? Well, it gives us a glimpse into what the early Christians thought about Mary, her holiness, holding her in high regard and devotion. And the last little tidbit of information that I can provide is, you know that song that's the battle song of the Republic, where it starts off, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord"? That seems to be taken from this gospel. When Mary is giving birth in the cave, there is a handmaiden there helping her with the birth who says, "Mine eyes have seen the glory." So if you'd like to read this gospel, it is online on YouTube. It's on the internet. It is a short gospel to read, and it's enjoyable. It does have its controversy, but it is enjoyable. I hope you liked this video. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or put a comment in below. Thank you again for watching.